The day before our Christmas break, my wife had just started to offer me a promotion and a raise to celebrate the 9-figure deal I just closed. That's when her male assistant deliberately fed her a bite of cream cake. My wife, a notorious germaphobe, didn't even bat an eye. She unconsciously put the spoon, still slick with his saliva, into her own mouth. The employees at the party immediately started hooting, asking if they were about to tie the knot. Not only did my wife not deny it, she promoted her assistant to department manager right then and there, in front of everyone. The colleague next to me, seeing I was quiet, nudged me with his elbow. "Jack, you're one of the boss's original team members. Aren't you going to say something?" I let out a cold laugh and magnanimously tossed the stock transfer agreement I was holding to the assistant. "A promotion isn't enough. Take these shares. Consider them my wedding gift to you both." "Jack, so that's why you printed out a stock transfer agreement this morning. You had this planned all along." He's been with Ms. White for years, of course he's in the know. In the private room, every head turned toward me. Then, they all started clapping and cheering wildly. The atmosphere was electric, as if this were the actual wedding of Bella White and Nick. Bella, however, looked awkward and couldn't manage a smile. I just found it all so ironic. Wasn't she grinning from ear to ear just moments ago when she was eating cake off Nick's spoon and giving him a promotion? I stood up abruptly, gave a slight bow, and addressed the room. "Sorry, everyone. I have some personal business to attend to, so I won't be staying." Before Bella could say a word, I turned and walked out. Originally, I'd brought the stock transfer agreement to use as collateral for a loan from a wealthy investor. The company's cash flow was about to dry up, and I was trying to solve the crisis. For years, the company had looked successful on the surface, but in reality, Bella's greed had kept our finances perpetually strained. If I hadn't been propping things up, holding it all together from behind the scenes, the company would have collapsed like an avalanche long ago. But now, Bella had disappointed me beyond words. Why should I keep running myself ragged for her? I had only taken a few steps when I heard Nick's breathless voice calling from behind me. "Jack, wait. You forgot your stock transfer papers." A hand gripped my arm tightly. It was Bella. Her hair was a mess, a clear sign she had run after me. She frowned, her voice sharp with anger. "Nick told you to stop. Are you deaf?" I paused. Nick took the opportunity to catch up, his face a mask of apology. "Jack, I didn't mean to steal your thunder. I just thought the cake was really good and I'm used to sharing things with Bella first." Then, in a theatrical gesture, he grabbed my hand and shoved the stock agreement back into it. "Don't do this just because you're angry. This is too valuable. Please take it back." I raised my hand to push the papers back at him. He panicked, thinking I was actually going to take them back, and yanked his hand away, clutching the agreement tightly. The next second, his face went pale. He hunched over, clutching his chest and gasping for air. I watched his performance with cold eyes. It was such terrible acting, but someone was still buying it. I watched as Bella rushed over to catch Nick's teetering body. She screamed at me, her voice cracking. "Nick's having a heart attack. Jack, what are you waiting for? Call an ambulance." I watched her, my eyes cold, as she expertly pulled medicine from her bag and gave it to him. I watched as this woman, who was so obsessed with cleanliness, dropped to her knees on the floor without a second thought. Also, Nick could lie flat and rest his head on her lap to keep his airway open. My eyes were filled with scorn. When Nick had an attack, she was frantic, dropping everything. But when my stomach ulcers had me doubled over and sweating, all she ever did was glare at me with disgust and complain that I was slowing down her work. The ambulance arrived quickly that night. In the hospital, Nick lay quietly in his bed. Bella gently tucked the corner of his blanket as if he were a precious treasure. The next moment, she whipped her head around, grabbed the stock agreement, and threw it at me, her voice a hushed accusation. "This is all your fault. Why did you have to bring out the stock agreement in the first place? If you hadn't been so passive-aggressive and pulled that stunt, do you think Nick would have been scared into an attack?" I tilted my head, and the papers grazed my ear before hitting the floor. I knew Bella was just taking her anger about Nick's condition out on me. The old me would have been jealous of her over-the-top concern for Nick and started a fight. But now I just felt tired. I grunted as a sort of reply. Bella stared at me, astonished. After a moment, she rubbed her fingers together, her tone softening slightly as she handed the papers back to me. Nick is just a kid, and he's sensitive. I couldn't just refuse the cake, could I? He has a heart condition, he can't handle that kind of rejection. Don't joke around with the shares like that again. This time I'll forgive you. I knew this was Bella's way of offering me an olive branch. But this time I had no intention of backing down. I said flatly, is there anything else? If not, I'm leaving. Bella stared at me for a long time before sighing in resignation. Fine. Don't look so miserable, as if I did something terrible to you. Wasn't I just looking out for you, too? You're so impulsive. Even if I promoted you, you wouldn't be able to command respect. Here, I'll give you a little extra cigarette money. Okay? With that, she took out her phone and started tapping. A second later, I received a notification that the limit on my supplementary card had been raised to 220. For all these years, she was so afraid I'd spend money recklessly that she took all my paychecks, giving me only $200 a month for spending money. Every single purchase had to be approved by her. 3 meals a day, the utility bills, all the big and small household expenses were on me. Every time I went over budget and had to ask her for more money, she would scrutinize me with a look that made my skin crawl. Now, she was begrudgingly transferring an extra $20 for cigarettes. But when Nick just whined a little, she'd hand him a credit card and tell him to spend whatever he wanted. It's not that I hadn't fought with her about it. She would just give me an icy stare and say that Nick was her assistant, responsible for schmoozing clients and managing her life, so of course he needed more money. Then she'd turn it around on me, blaming my unreasonable expenses. Defeated, I could only take on side hustles to support myself. I was working around the clock without a second's rest, and my body was already wrecked. Bella was still rambling in my ear, telling me to spend less, that things weren't easy for the company. Looking at the number 220 on my phone screen, I could only laugh. My face went cold, and I immediately unlinked my card from her account. I didn't need her money. I certainly didn't want it. Lifting my eyes, I said to her calmly, "Got it." After walking out of the hospital room, I immediately called a friend I hadn't spoken to in years. "Wallace, I've made up my mind. Set me up with that job on Monday." He was ecstatic, immediately agreeing. He went on and on about how great the conditions were at the major tech firm he worked for overseas and how they'd welcome a talent like me. The sun had set by the time I finally hung up the phone, a smile on my face. He was right. If I had accepted his invitation to start a business overseas back then, I might not be a tycoon now, but I'd at least be successful. For 10 years, for the sake of Bella's company, I had turned down countless offers from major firms, taking the lowest salary to do the most work. It was a complete waste of my youth. Now I was tired. I just wanted to live for myself. When I got home, I quickly packed my things. Besides some basic necessities, I really didn't have anything. I was like a guest in this house. All the valuables in the house were locked up by Bella. From the safe with her jewelry to the closet with her designer dresses, she guarded everything from me as if I were a thief. In a desk drawer, a gaming console buried at the very bottom caught my eye. I had bought this console back when Bella and I were just starting the business. We had made a good bit of money, and in a moment of excitement, I bought it to reward myself. But I'd barely played it a few times before Bella said I was losing my ambition to video games and that it was bad for the company's growth. If she told me not to play, I wouldn't touch it. In my mind, her commands were like invisible locks. But now I would no longer treat her words as gospel. I took out the console and pressed the power button. The screen lit up. It still worked. I played a couple of rounds, making the character jump, run, and attack. It was the same game, but I felt none of the excitement or thrill I used to. Just like my relationship with Bella, there was no going back. Tastelessly, I placed the dusty console back in its place. Looking up, I realized it was already past midnight. I was used to working overtime until this hour, so I wasn't sleepy yet. But I had a flight to catch tomorrow, so I planned to get some rest. After washing up, I lay in bed and saw Nick's latest post on his social feed. In the photo, Bella was sleeping by his hospital bed, her face peaceful. The caption read, "Just feeling a little under the weather and the boss came to take care of me. Aren't you all jealous of my amazing boss?" I sneered. He really never missed an opportunity to show off how close he and Bella were. It looked like Bella would be taking care of Nick tonight and wouldn't be coming home. That was fine by me. I put my phone on the charger on the nightstand, closed my eyes and went to sleep. I slept soundly, but I was startled awake around 3 or 4 in the morning by the sound of the front door opening. A moment later, Bella's voice rang out. "Jack, I'm home. I'm starving. Go make me some noodles." In the past, no matter how late it was, I would wait up for her, prepare a late-night snack, draw her a hot bath, and wait on her until she fell asleep. Tonight, I rolled out of bed and locked my bedroom door to keep Bella from bothering me. It was strange. Every time Nick had an attack, Bella would stay by his side, never even going home to change. The first time she didn't come home all night, I was frantic, thinking she'd been in an accident. I only found out she was at Nick's place, taking care of his fever, doing his laundry, and cooking for him after I had the police track her phone. Back then, Bella had berated me for being controlling and suffocating. Snapping back to the present, Bella was pounding on the door, confused. "Why did you lock the door? Didn't you hear me? I'm hungry. Did you go to sleep without waiting for me? You never used to do that, Jack. What's wrong with you?" In the past, she thought me waiting up meant I wasn't focused enough at work and told me in a cold voice to put my energy into my job. Now that I was ignoring her, she was unhappy again. So high maintenance. I rolled over, frowning, and pulled the covers over my head. Bella kept pounding on the door, her tone softening a bit in frustration. "I know you're still mad, but I came home, didn't I? Jack, I'm really hungry. Why is there nothing in the fridge?" I still didn't answer her. Her voice grew angrier, and she threatened me, enunciating each word. "Jack, if you keep this up, I'm leaving." In the past, my biggest fear was Bella not coming home. That line was her trump card, and whenever she used it, I would grovel and beg her not to go. But now, all I wanted was for her to stop making noise so I could sleep. I fumbled around on the nightstand, found my earplugs, put them in, and drifted off to a blissful sleep. I woke up early the next day, but I felt exceptionally clear-headed. There was a rustling sound in the living room. I walked out cautiously, only to find it was Bella. She was ironing a shirt, her lips slightly pursed in concentration. I was a little confused. Why wasn't she at the hospital taking care of Nick? Sensing my gaze, she looked up, then immediately walked over with the freshly ironed white shirt. Bella held the shirt up to me, nodded, and said with satisfaction, "Fits pretty well. It makes you look much sharper." I glanced at the tag. It was a high-end luxury brand she often bought. The next second, she turned away, shaking out the sleeve of the white shirt and muttering to herself, "You and Nick have about the same build. It looks okay on you, so it will definitely look even better on him. I really have good taste. But why did it get so wrinkled after just a few days? It's not straightening out even after all this ironing. This won't do." As if struck by an idea, she turned and beckoned me with her finger. "You're always ironing clothes at home, aren't you? You do it." I laughed coldly to myself. I knew it. How could Bella possibly be trying to win me back? Her mind was, and always had been, only on Nick. I shook my head, refusing. Bella wasn't surprised at all. She pouted. "I knew you wouldn't do it. Fine, Nick won't mind." She glanced at her watch and exclaimed, "Oh no, it's almost time for his breakfast." With that, she quickly found a gift box and carefully folded the shirt inside. I had more important things to do than argue with her. I went back to my room, then came out and pushed the divorce papers in front of her. "Before you go, sign this." Bella didn't even look, focused only on arranging the corners of the gift box. Without looking up, she said casually, "Whatever work matter it is can wait. I have to get to the hospital to take care of Nick."
I'm busse.
I firmly blocked her path and held the divorce papers out to her. "It won't take you a minute." Bella frowned slightly, finally glancing at what I was holding. The next second, her pupils contracted sharply. But she quickly seemed to compose herself, her brow furrowing with impatience as she snapped, "Jack, I give you an inch and you take a mile. You're going to divorce me just because I ate a bite of cake yesterday? You've gotten older all these years, but not any smarter." I shook my head and continued to hold the papers out to her, saying firmly, "Let's get a divorce. That way you can make things official with Nick, right? Jack." Bella was truly furious now. She snatched the divorce papers and tore them to shreds. "I told you. Nick and I have a completely platonic relationship. Can't you understand plain English? I'm telling you, if you keep this up, the celebration party is off, and you can forget about your promotion and raise." She didn't give me another chance to speak, just turned and stormed out. I clicked my tongue in annoyance. If that's how it was going to be, I'd just submit my resignation first. I opened my phone and a flood of messages popped up. "Manager, you're not working overtime on Christmas Eve? How come you're not here yet?" "Well, this is rare, Jack. I don't see you at your desk. Did our workaholic finally decide to take a break?" I didn't reply to them. I submitted my resignation to HR first, then had a lawyer notarize the stock transfer agreement. I meant what I said. I was giving my shares to Nick as a wedding gift, and I wouldn't go back on my word. Not long after, a notification popped up on my work messenger. "Resignation rejected." I called to ask why, and HR could only say apologetically, "Mr. Chun, Ms. White was the one who rejected it. There's nothing we can do." Ms. White sent a location. She said if you have any issues, you should go find her there. Sure enough, it was the hotel she and Nick frequented. By the time I arrived, the private room was already in full swing. "You're so young and promising. The future of the company rests on your shoulders. I'll toast to you, and I wish you and Ms. White all the best." I frowned deeply and threw open the door to the room. Inside, everyone was leaning in, clustered around Nick, who was seated at the head of the table. He was wearing the shirt Bella had brought him this morning, looking every bit the part of a polished professional. And pinned to his chest was a department manager name badge. The moment they saw me, all the clinking glasses and chatter stopped, as if time had frozen. Nick stood up, breaking the stalemate. He walked over to me, grabbed my hand like we were old pals, and led me toward the table with a smile. "Jack, what took you so long? I've been waiting for you. Come on, have a seat." I laughed mockingly and shook his hand off. "Have a seat? There's nothing but leftovers. Do you take me for a beggar?" Bella, who had been sitting bolt upright since I appeared, finally moved. She shielded Nick behind her, crossed her arms, and sneered at me. "Didn't someone want to resign? Why did you bother showing up at a company team building event?" I looked around at the employees present. Basically, all the key people were there, all faces I knew well, yet not a single one had told me about this. They looked embarrassed, their eyes darting away, unable to meet my gaze. You didn't need to be a genius to figure out that Bella had told them to keep it from me, afraid I'd show up and cause trouble. This wasn't a team-building event, it was an inauguration party for Nick. Bella tilted her chin up, huffed through her nose, and said arrogantly, "Jack, I don't think you're cut out to be a department manager at all. You're reaching too high. You're too impulsive. From now on, you can start over as an intern." With the boss's declaration, the other seasoned office veterans knew their cue and chimed in. "Yeah, Jack, I think you've been getting a little ahead of yourself lately. You should just listen to the boss. You used to work year-round without a break, but you didn't even work overtime today. I think you still need more training." Behind Bella, Nick raised an eyebrow at me, a triumphant smirk playing on his lips, his eyes full of smug satisfaction. He feigned modesty, lightly tugging on Bella's sleeve and saying, "Bella, don't be like that. I've only been with the company for half a year. Being at the same level as Jack is already more than I deserve. After all, he's been with the company for so many years. Even if he hasn't had major achievements, he's put in the hard work." Bella's eyes flickered with disdain. "You were promoted based on your own merit. Someone else is just resting on his laurels. If seniority was all it took for a promotion, he could be the CEO." I scoffed. When we started the company, I felt bad for her, so I always took on the heaviest burdens, working in the trenches so she could be the high and mighty decision maker. I had worked diligently for years, creating value for the company, yet Bella was spouting shameless lies as if I were worthless. I raised an eyebrow and said coolly, "Ms. White, I need you to approve my resignation as soon as possible. Otherwise, I will be filing a complaint with the labor board." Bella was unfazed, smirking. "All right, Jack, stop acting. You're making it sound so real. Where could you possibly go besides this company? Don't forget about your shares." She had an air of smug confidence, as if she had me all figured out and believed I was just throwing a tantrum. Unfortunately for her, she was dead wrong. I said coldly, "Ms. White, I've already transferred my shares to Nick. I don't want anything. I just want to leave." Instantly, Bella's expression froze. She stared at me, stunned. Someone from the legal department whispered in her ear, "Ms. White, we did receive a public notice of the share transfer from Jack's lawyer." Nick, who had been enjoying the show, couldn't believe his sudden windfall. His eyes lit up, and he feigned modesty with a flushed face. "Jack, don't give me your shares just because you're angry. Quick, how can I give them back to you?" I almost laughed at his pathetic performance. Bella's eyes went wide, her brow deeply furrowed. She looked lost, as if faced with an unsolvable puzzle. It seemed she was finally realizing it. This time, I was dead set on leaving. The moment that thought sank in, she panicked. She struggled to maintain her composure, then tried to sweet-talk me, stringing me along with more empty promises. "Jack, our company is about to go public. If you're obedient and sensible, I'll promote you in no time. And that thing you mentioned before, I'll agree to it too." I found it laughable. Even now, she couldn't bring herself to openly acknowledge our marriage. She still had to be vague. I was like a donkey that had been chasing a carrot on a stick for 10 years, constantly swallowing her empty promises. This time, I was really done playing along. With a cold expression, I pulled up my e-ticket on my phone and said with a sigh, "Ms. White, time waits for no one. My flight is boarding soon. If you have any further business, please contact my lawyer." Bella froze, staring at the ticket on my phone screen. Her lips trembled, and her eyes gradually lost focus. But Nick let out a little "huh?" "Jack, where are you going? I thought you were from here. Are you planning a trip for Christmas? You bought tickets a while ago?" His words seemed to snap Bella back to reality. As if remembering something, she looked at my phone and suddenly reached out to grab it. I straightened my arm, holding the phone high above my head, and asked, "Hey, Ms. White, what are you doing trying to snatch someone's things?" Bella bit her lip, her eyes darting around, but she said with forced confidence, "You're hiding your phone from me because you're afraid I'll find out the ticket is fake, aren't you?" "Jack, stop pretending. You're an orphan. Where could you possibly go? Even if you're going to throw a tantrum, you don't have to resort to such a clumsy trick." So, she thought I was pretending to have bought a plane ticket just to make a point. I smiled contemptuously. "Sorry, Ms. White, but I'm going overseas, and I'm never coming back." "Enough!" Bella cut me off, slamming her hand on the table. Wine sloshed over the back of her hand. Normally, she would have looked disgusted and rushed to the bathroom to wash it, not stopping until she'd used half a bottle of soap. But now, she stood there as if she felt nothing, her eyes fixed on me. Her chest heaved. For some reason, she let out a sudden sigh, and her tone softened. "All right, I took the joke too far today. How could I possibly demote you? Jack, you really can't take a joke. You closed a 9-figure deal a few days ago, and we still haven't decided how to reward you. After the Christmas holiday, I'll throw you a huge, proper celebration. How about that?" The others exchanged confused glances. They didn't understand why Bella, who was always so professional and distant with me, was suddenly so desperate to make me stay. Still, they reluctantly chimed in. Jack, think it over. You've been with the company for so many years. There's no need to be in such a hurry to leave, right?" "Yeah, Jack, everyone was just joking around earlier. Cool off. We all enjoy working together, don't we?" I looked at Bella. She had a look of strained endurance, her fingers clenched into a fist so tightly her knuckles were white. I knew that for her, This was a rare act of submission, of showing weakness. In all these years, she had never backed down to me like this. But she didn't know that my resolve to leave was harder than a diamond. I shook my head and turned to go. But Bella grabbed a glass of red wine from the table and threw it all over me. She snapped, "You stay right there. You're not leaving until you explain yourself properly." Cold wine drenched me. I blinked and wiped my face. How had I never noticed what a volatile temper Bella had? Nick gasped and scurried over with a napkin from the table, playing the good guy. "Jack, are you okay?" "Bella just has a sharp tongue but a soft heart. She doesn't want to lose a talent like you. That's why she's being so impulsive. Just give in and apologize to her." Apologize to her? In her dreams. I sneered inwardly. I glanced at the napkin Nick was using to try and wipe me down. It was covered in food stains. This outfit was a total loss. Instantly, a vein throbbed in my forehead, and my head started ringing. I must have had the worst luck in the world to end up with these two weirdos. Especially Bella. Was she blind? How could she fall for a scheming little creep like Nick? I shoved Nick aside and looked at Bella mockingly. "What, can't handle losing, Ms. White? An employee isn't even allowed to resign?" My push sent Nick stumbling back a couple of steps. Normally, Bella would have rushed to steady him and whisper words of comfort. But now her eyes were fixed only on me. Nick bit his lip, then, unwilling to be ignored, threw himself backward, his lower back slamming into the edge of the table. He cried out in pain and collapsed onto the floor. That finally got Bella's attention. The next second, she slapped me across the face. She didn't hold back. My cheek immediately went numb and started to swell. I licked the inside of my mouth where my teeth had cut it, the faint, sweet taste of blood spreading across my tongue. After slapping me, Bella rushed to Nick's side, her voice soft as she asked him what was wrong. Nick, his eyes gleaming with triumph, lay in her arms and played the victim. "It's nothing, Bella. It's all my fault. I tripped on the rug and fell. It has nothing to do with Jack. Please don't blame him." I could no longer contain my rage. I dropped all the fake pleasantries. I said coldly, "Bella, are you blind? You can't even see him faking an injury? Only a dog would work for a boss like you." Bella didn't see anything wrong with her actions. Her eyes were full of disgust. "Jack, Nick is kind-hearted, and you want to use that as an excuse to get off the hook? Don't even think about it. I'm telling you, if you don't apologize to Nick today, this isn't over between us." "Oh?" I said, asking her how it wouldn't be over. Suddenly, she was consumed with rage, apparently forgetting about the crowd of employees watching, and yelled, "If you don't apologize, I'll divorce you." Instantly, everyone in the room was stunned and began whispering among themselves. "Ms. White and Jack are actually married? Who would have guessed? I've never seen them wear rings. I thought they were both single. But Jack did say once that he was in a relationship. Then what's the deal with Nick?" Even Nick looked surprised, grabbing Bella's arm. "Bella, what's going on? Are you and Jack really husband and wife?" As soon as the words left her mouth, Bella's face went pale. She knew she'd misspoken, but she had too much pride to back down now. She just stiffened her neck and continued to confront me. "Jack, aren't you going to apologize?" I rolled my eyes internally. What a joke. Even at this point, she didn't have the courage to just say yes. But she had the nerve to threaten me with divorce. The old me probably would have been terrified by that. After all, my dream had once been to love her until we were old and gray, and I worked tirelessly toward that. So every time she mentioned divorce or separation, it was like she had me in a vice grip. I'd do whatever she said, terrified of making her angrier. But the me of today couldn't care less. In fact, I thought it was great, perfect. A person as obsessed with her public image as she was would be terrified of gossip. Coming back to my senses, a smile spread across my face. Then let's get a divorce. Bella, who had been expecting me to get on my knees and beg for forgiveness, was stunned. She stared at me, dumbfounded, and asked in a trembling voice, "What did you say?" I looked at her coolly and smiled. "Let's get a divorce. You're the CEO of a company. You're not going to act like some lovesick teenager and cling to me, are you?" With that, I pulled out a copy of the divorce papers. I had only intended to have my lawyer mail them, but it turned out to be the perfect time to use them. Looking at the papers in front of her, then looking at the stares from everyone around us, Bella's fingers began to tremble. She opened her mouth, then swallowed whatever she was about to say. Fine, I'll sign. Don't you regret this? Although Nick didn't know exactly what was happening, my divorcing Bella was definitely a good thing for him. So he added more fuel to the fire. But Jack, the company is so big. If you two divorce, how will you divide everything? Can I be assigned to Bella? He said it as if he were a child of divorce, unsure of which parent he would go with. But Bella seized on it like an excuse. She stopped writing, tossed the pen aside, and sneered. That's right. Why should you just get half of the company for free? The company is mine. I said indifferently. Bella, take a closer look. The agreement says I'll leave with nothing. Don't worry, I won't take a single penny of your money. For some reason, Bella's face grew even uglier, and she even started trembling slightly. She should have been happy. She was getting money, freedom, and love. If I were her, I'd be thanking my generous ex-husband. In the end, she signed her name with a trembling hand. She suddenly looked up, her eyes red-rimmed, and threw the divorce papers at me. Take it and get out. Don't ever let me see you again. Even if you come back begging on your knees, I won't take you back. This time, no one stopped me. I pushed open the door and walked out. But I was sticky all over, so I decided to go to the restroom to wash my face first. Looking at my pathetic state in the mirror, I had to laugh. How was it that even at the very end, I was still getting treated like this? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I pushed open the door and went back into the private room. Bella's face was ashen, like she'd lost her soul. Nick, no longer pretending to be sick, was now gently comforting her. Seeing me, Bella's eyes suddenly lit up, but her words were still harsh. What, regretting it already? Too bad. There's no way I'm remarrying you. But Nick sensed the shift in the atmosphere and stammered. Jack, did you forget something? I can help you look for it. There was indeed one thing I forgot to do. I took 2 steps closer. Bella watched me warily. Jack, what are you doing? What was I doing? A smirk touched my lips. I flipped the entire dining table. Countless soups and sauces flowed straight onto the 2 of them. Nick was lucky Bella shielded him, so he only got soaked. Bella's long, wavy hair was matted with sauce and bits of fish. She let out an involuntary scream. So satisfying. The petrified employees took a few seconds to react, then scrambled to help their boss up and clean her off. I walked out the door. Although I'd wasted a lot of time, I made my flight. After I landed, an executive from the overseas tech firm met me and was incredibly friendly. My new boss, a beautiful woman, asked me quizzically, I kept inviting you to join our company before, and you always refused. What suddenly changed your mind? I just smiled. My boss and I had a falling out. She put a hand on my shoulder with a look of understanding and sympathy. I always thought your old boss was too exploitative. A talent like you shouldn't be overworked like that. I support you. Before I knew it, a month had passed since I started my new job. During this time, I was thriving overseas. I was like a fish in water. Without Bella's exploitation and without having to worry about the trivial details of her life, I poured all my energy into my work. My efficiency was off the charts. Soon, I closed a 9-figure deal for the company. To celebrate, they threw a massive party for me right at the office. They didn't just give me a luxury car as a bonus, they promoted me and gave me a raise. Everyone in the company was incredibly impressed with me. Compare that to Bella, who only ever offered me empty promises and never actually gave me anything. In the middle of the party, my phone suddenly rang. I didn't think much of it, assuming it was a client, and stepped into a quiet conference room to answer. I answered in English. There was a long silence on the other end. Just as I was about to check who was calling, a trembling voice I recognized, belonging to the usually composed Bella, asked, Jack, you really went abroad? You said you'd stay by my side forever. Even without seeing her, I could imagine she looked haggard, her voice weak. The old me would have immediately started fussing over her, showering her with concern. Now, I just said coldly, "Bella, why are you calling me?" My tone was hard. Bella seemed to lose control of her emotions, and her voice became shrill. "Jack, even if we're divorced, you can just talk to me like that?" I found that funny and shot back. "What, should I be cooing, darling, what's wrong?" To a complete stranger. After I said that, Bella suddenly went silent. I was getting impatient when she finally spoke again, hesitantly. "Fine, Jack. I'm calling you because I wanted to say, I was wrong." She whispered the last 3 words so softly they were barely audible. I was puzzled. Why was she suddenly backing down? I thought it, and then I said it out loud. She immediately retorted, "Because I love you." "I'm sorry. I didn't care about your feelings before. It won't happen again. Tell me the truth." The company's cash flow seems to have a small problem, so that was the real reason. I gave a sarcastic laugh and feigned confusion. How could that be? With a genius like Nick there, how could the company have any problems? Bella was on the verge of tears from my taunts. "Jack, stop being sarcastic. The company is like our child. Yes, I know Nick isn't as capable as you. The company really can't function without you." I apologized, didn't I? What more do you want? So this was Bella's idea of an apology? Still so high and mighty. Did she think she was still the girl I once loved to the bone? "Bella, legally, you and I are strangers. We're adults. Stop clinging." With that, I hung up. I ignored the flood of calls from Bella that followed and blocked her number. A short time later, I received an international package. The sender was Bella. I frowned, a bad feeling creeping in. What on earth had Bella sent me? I opened the box and saw a small gift box inside. Inside the box lay a faded, misshapen blue tie. I stared blankly at the tie, which looked ancient, as if I had been yanked back in time. Years ago, Bella and I had just graduated. I was interviewing at a major company, but I was broke and could only afford a cheap suit. When she found out, she met me for our date the next day and presented the tie to me like a treasure. Back then, this tie cost $500. It had taken all of her savings, and she'd even sold her blood to scrape the money together. At the time, I kissed the needle mark on her arm, let my tears flow freely, and cried as I promised I would give her a good life and be devoted to her and only her forever. For years, I had kept this tie. It had been with me through all the hard times. After we moved into our new house, I thought Bella had thrown it away, and we'd had a huge fight about it. I never thought I would see it again. My heartbeat seemed to slow, a heavy feeling settling in my chest. I knew this was Bella's tactic to try and force me back. But what she didn't know was, when love is gone, what's the point of these lifeless objects? I set the tie on fire, a funeral pyre for my dead love. I briefly unblocked Bella. She immediately sent me a message in a triumphant tone. "I found the tie. Stop messing around and come back." My reply was a video of the burning tie. Then I blocked her again. The next day, I went to work as usual. But in the coffee shop by the entrance of the building, a familiar figure waved at me. I rubbed my eyes, realizing it wasn't a hallucination. Bella? What was she doing here? I frowned, about to duck into the building to avoid her. But she had somehow already appeared behind me, grabbing my arm. "What, you have the guts to burn our memento, but not to face me?" Her voice drifted over, strangely hoarse. My head started to throb. I had no choice but to message my boss and request a day off. Then I followed her back to the coffee shop. I got straight to the point. "I don't have any money, and I'm not going back." Bella was taken aback, her chest heaving with anger. But she was wearing huge, oversized sunglasses that covered half her face, so I couldn't read her expression. I pointed at her glasses and raised an eyebrow. "Bella, is it polite to talk to people while wearing those?" Bella bit her lip, seemed to hesitate for a moment, and then took off the sunglasses. The moment she did, I knew why she'd been wearing them. Her eyes were swollen like walnuts. It was obvious she had been crying all night, which explained her hoarse voice. In all these years, she had always been so strong. I had never seen her cry. I found it a little strange. But I wasn't so conceited as to think she was crying like this because I burned the tie, so I ventured a guess. Did Nick break up with you? Bella sat bolt upright and gritted her teeth. What does he have to do with this? It's all your fault. I frowned. She deflated like a punctured balloon, suddenly clutching her head in something like a breakdown. Jack, please stop this. Okay? I came all the way here to find you myself. Isn't that enough sincerity? There's so much going on at the company. Without you, I really don't know what to do. She grabbed my hand, her eyes welling up with tears as she promised, Jack, I truly realize my mistake this time. I'll never yell at you again, and I'll stop seeing Nick. From now on, I'll be good to you. I yanked my hand away, feeling a chill run down my spine. She was really pulling out all the stops to trick me into going back and cleaning up her mess. But I knew that for her to be this desperate, the company must be on the verge of collapse. There was no way I was going back. Bella, when you say you'll be good to me, you mean you want me to help you pay off the debts of a bankrupt company, right? Bella's eyes widened. What nonsense are you talking about? The company isn't bankrupt. It's fine. I had Nick watch over it for me. As soon as she finished speaking, her phone, which was sitting on the table, rang. It was the finance department. She frowned, clearly not wanting to answer. I swiped to answer for her. On the other end, the person from finance sounded panicked. Ms. White, we have more creditors at the door today demanding payment. There's really no money left in the company accounts. A lot of our receivables haven't come in, and the cash flow is completely frozen. We might have to declare bankruptcy. Bella shot to her feet, her eyes wide with fury, and shrieked, How is that possible? I only asked Nick to watch things for one day. How could we be bankrupt? The finance guy had a bellyful of grievances, too. The moment he took over, he transferred all the money out of the accounts. We can't find him anywhere. A tremor ran through Bella's body. She clutched her head, looking unsteady, and sank back into her seat. I said mockingly, You actually dared to let that idiot Nick run your company? Bella didn't react. She had clearly lost the ability to think, stunned into silence by the massive blow. After a long moment, she shakily picked up her phone and frantically tried to contact Nick. She muttered to herself, No, Nick wouldn't do this. Of course, none of her calls went through. Her face was ghastly, paler than a patient in the ICU. I glanced at my watch and realized it was already noon. I stood up and straightened my clothes. I suggest you head back quickly. Wasting your time here with me won't do anything to save your company. The moment I turned, Bella's hand shot out and grabbed my sleeve. Jack, I'm begging you. The words seemed to take all the strength she had. Without hesitation, I shook her off. She didn't follow me. After that, I never saw her again. I only occasionally saw her in the news. Her company had declared bankruptcy, and she looked disheveled, as if she had aged 10 years. A year later, I returned to the country with my boss to sign a contract. My beautiful boss, Sandy Lynn, was now my new girlfriend. We had endless things to talk about. She was always gentle, considerate, and supportive, understanding everything about me. Gradually, we fell for each other. She knew about my past with Bella and held me with sympathy, saying that if it were her, she would never have betrayed my love. Sandy was excited about everything back home, but her favorite thing was visiting the night markets and eating street food. And I loved seeing her eyes light up when she ate something delicious. I found it so adorable I just wanted to pull her into my arms. That day, after Sandy and I signed our contract, we went to another night market. Her eyes lit up as she pointed at a stall in excitement. Grilled sausage. Even though we'd eaten everything under the sun these past few days, she still had the same enthusiasm. I smiled and walked up to the stall, asking how much the sausages were. The vendor didn't reply. I thought she hadn't heard me, so I asked again gently. This time she spoke. $5 a piece. My hand, holding my phone to pay, froze. That familiar voice. The vendor was wearing a black mask, her dry, messy hair falling around her ears. Her hands were covered in cuts and scrapes, and her apron was splattered with grease. Couldn't believe it. This couldn't be the same Bella who was once so obsessed with cleanliness. Noticing I had been staring at the vendor for too long, Sandy pinched my cheek. Honey, what's wrong? Bella flinched, lowered her head, and handed me the sausage. Sandy reached for my hand and took a bite, mumbling with her mouth full that it was delicious. I paid Bella with my phone. I didn't say another word to her. After we left the stall, Sandy asked me what was wrong, her face full of concern. I hesitated for a moment, then told her that the vendor was Bella. Sandy's eyes widened. She seemed to think of something, then started humming a little tune and said, "Don't be sad. She deserves it. In a way, I should thank her for letting you go. Otherwise, I would never have gotten to be with you." I stopped her from going back to give Bella more money, and chuckled. I held Sandy's hand as we walked through the street food market, the air thick with the aroma of food. Looking at the brightly lit city, a warmth spread through my heart. The future, I thought, looked bright.